So I'm going to talk about like some things that I would or wouldn't do differently about, moving to Panama. I'm going to give you an update on the roof and my car insurance, which has turned out to be a huge disappointment. This is the face of defeat. I kind of felt defeated a few months ago with the casita roof leaks. But now I'm like completely defeated, and I will be putting on a new roof, actually not taking off this roof because this roof is a little complicated and maybe that's why it's had so many problems. But the ceiling is actually my leftover thermo panel from the material that I took off of my roof when I raised the roof line. But I have a guest arriving in like an hour, and all the normal spots that were leaking are still leaking. And I have had Amato and his crew here probably 4, maybe 5 times. They have put tar, they have put the alum band, they have done, they've like, cleaned, scraped, painted, gooped. But I'm just defeated. I am just defeated. I just don't know. I just don't understand. I don't know. I'm defeated. Totally defeated. We are at Chorro El Macho. I have guests that are doing the zip line. They saw the video of Donna doing it, so they're doing it too. We'll see how they enjoy it. So I wanted to thank you, first of all, for buying the book. I did that book release a couple weeks ago. And since then, I have started a class on having success with KDP publishing. So I've learned a few things, and while I think my title is cute and sassy, nobody is searching for a book called Sweep, Scrub, Poop. So I'm gonna unpublish the book. I'm not gonna change the content, but I am gonna change the title and the subtitle, and the cover, and then I'm gonna republish it. So the content's gonna stay the same. However, if you've read it and you've found any errors or anything like that, let me know, and I'll fix those. And then when I republish it, I will come back to you and ask for reviews if you've read it and wanted to leave an honest review, because that helps people determine whether they'll buy a book or not. Okay, so I'm going to give my arm a rest and I'll be right back. But I wanted to show you, this is where the entrance is for the restaurant called Las Nubes. And you go down and up this really windy road. The restaurant is way up there on the hill. Probably not going to be able to see it behind me. It's just up there. And they have really good food. Sometimes it's hard to know when they're open because I've found that their hours on Google aren't accurate. And you want to come up when it's still light out so that you can see the pretty mountains and the clouds, and also so you can see your way down the mountain, because when it gets dark, it's hard to see. Okay, so the update on the roof, as you can tell by my surrender moment, I was ready to just put a whole new roof on it. I was researching different materials and was kind of deciding that the PVC roof material might be best. And then Amato, the guy who's been, patching, fixing, taping, praying, gooping. He said, you know, let Amato look. Let Amato look, so he is going to take off the top, roof panels. He did put some tarp over it, and that has actually made it much better. So after my current guests leave, the Airbnb is blocked for 2 weeks, and hopefully that'll give him time, to work his magic. I think he sees it as a personal challenge, to find where this leak is. And I also really appreciate that he is not just, rushing in to having me spend all this money on a roof and for him to install it. So I really appreciate that. I like that, he's got integrity and like, wait a minute, if I can spare you the cost of, putting in a new roof, I will do that. So that I'm really happy about. What I'm not happy about is how the car insurance reimbursement process has been going, or should I say not going. My accident was in October of 2023. I was without a car for 5 months. I opted to pay out of pocket to get my car fixed and was told that by submitting receipts to the insured party's company, I would get reimbursed. There might be, a little deduction for depreciation. I paid $2,800 to have the car fixed. I don't think that's unreasonable for the amount of work that it was. I got an email the other day of an offer for $1,669. So that leaves me like $1,100 out of pocket. To me, that's not acceptable. So I have someone, who is helping and like filing my receipts and, making phone calls. I'm also very aware that this is now getting into October 2024, and in November, nothing is going to get done. Everything shuts down because of all the holidays that are in November. While I'm not happy about this offer, I feel like if they could come up even a little bit, maybe to like, even if they came up to, $2,100 or $2,200, I might be inclined to just absorb the other costs. Even though it's not right, I shouldn't have to pay it. This is what happens in the rain. You start skidding on the scree. I think that's what that's called, scree. So I will give another update about that, but I'm not happy, but I know that it's not likely to change completely in my favor, and so therefore I have to adjust myself, my mind, my thoughts about it. There's that. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to talk about things that would I or would I not have done differently. Let's start with the first visit to Panama. So I came to Panama because I saw a house online that was for sale in Altos del Maria, and I fell in love with it. I fell more than in love. I was obsessed. Let's just call it what it is. It was an obsession. I mean, I stalked this thing day and night. I had been in an RV in Florida because this was during the time I did my 8-month RV trip across the US to see if maybe there was some place that I could see myself living in the States that would be more affordable. Anyway, so I'm stalking this house hard. I make the arrangements telling the broker I am only coming to Panama to see this house. And, yes, of course, blah, 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 blah. I stay in an Airbnb in Altos del Maria, and the morning that I'm supposed to go see the house, the broker says, Patty, I'm so sorry. The owner has decided he doesn't want to sell. I've told this story before, but anyway, so, kind of had to laugh about that. But for me, it was the trip that got me to Panama to visit. But I would not recommend that. Um, I guess, maybe my first visit was a little bit impulsive. Um, but I think if you're, really seriously thinking about moving to Panama, for the first visit, yes, there's room for spontaneity. But what I would have done, looking back in hindsight with the wisdom that we're afforded with hindsight, I would have probably met with someone to have just an informational, day tour maybe. And I would probably have done that in Panama City to start with, just to get information on what is entailed about, the process. I probably would have met with an attorney, an immigration attorney, just to start getting ideas of what's required for the process and what my visa options were, because there's a lot of different paths to residency. I was very lucky to get the Friendly Nations visa when it was only like a $5,000 deposit requirement in a bank, and you had to start a corporation, which I did, and then just let it go because I really didn't have a need for it. I'm not a fan of, big group tours, so that wouldn't have been for me. But I do think those are a great option for people who are limited on time and just want to, get it done, get the information that they need. And I think those are a great option. And there's also, options in between, doing a private tour, or maybe coming with a few friends and doing a tour that way with a guide. So moving on to packing and purging belongings. So I took 2 trips and decided that I was definitely moving to Panama. And I was not keeping any kind of residence, no dwelling in the States. So this was a permanent, full-time residency move for me. I am very happy with what I ended up packing and bringing to Panama. I packed 2 pallets and had them shipped. I packed them myself, and I didn't bring any furniture. I brought a little bit of decor. My mom was an artist, so I brought her paintings. The only clothing I brought was like cotton, linen, rayon blend. I didn't bring anything synthetic. I did bring some sheets and towels. I do recommend bringing kitchen knives or essential kitchen things that, if you have like a bread maker or, things like that. Small appliances are easy to find here. So for example, you don't need to bring a rice maker. You're coming to Panama, there's plenty of rice makers that you can find. But, I had a sorbet maker. I brought that. I've used it a couple times. It didn't take up a huge amount of space. People do advise to bring can openers, and I would add to that, bring like a wine opener or aerator, anything that you use for, like a bar setup, maybe bring that. It might be available like at Arocha or some stores in the city, but if you have it, it's not really a big deal to bring. I went through a lot of decluttering, purging, and it got easier for me to do over the years. But if you are someone who holds on to things for sentimental purposes, this is your opportunity to make a really big change in your life and have a totally new experience, because what we let go of leaves room for not new stuff, but new experiences, new ways of thinking, new ways of being, new activities, new ideas. What I did that was really helpful was I donated things meaningfully to me. So I had a lot of really beautiful china that had been my grandparents, and then was my mom's and then was mine. And I would keep one. If there was one pattern that I really, really loved, I would just keep one, like one bowl, one plate, one cup. So yeah, if you have a favorite, you know, set of something, just bring one. And the creamer and the sugar thing, you'll be totally fine with that. The other thing I did was donate meaningfully to me. So I filled like the cups and little bowls with candy, and I donated that to like nursing homes around the holidays. And that just felt good to me because those things were tugging on my heartstrings to part with, because they just had a lot of sentimental connection for me in my mind to my mom and when I was a little girl. So that felt good. Books were really hard to part with. My mom was an artist. She had tons of beautiful, unique, and collectible artist books. But I knew that books, one, they're very heavy. Two, they're not going to do well in this climate. And I kind of learned from when I moved her stuff after she died in Florida. This was 1991. I packed everything, put it in storage, and then had it sent out to California like 6 years later, and everything was disintegrated pretty much. So I remembered that experience and I learned from it, and I took pictures of things. This was really, really helpful for me. I took pictures. I'm going to turn around because these mountains are just so pretty. I took pictures of the stuff and have that, as a digital memory. And have I once gone through all those digital pictures? No, not really. I mean, no, I don't think I have. In the 5 years that I've been here in Panama, I really don't think that I've actually gone through nostalgically and looked at, the pictures of the art books. I also did that with photo albums, and that was challenging for me because I really, was into photography and all that stuff. So that was very liberating to do. And I would highly recommend that you do the best you can to purge. It's so freeing. It really is just very liberating to do that. Another thing on the list that I would bring would be if you have any cast iron pans, because you don't really see them typically here. I know they're heavy to pack, but if you do cook with cast iron, bring those because it's kind of hard to find. I've only found one store in the city that sold them, and they were kind of expensive. So that would be my recommendation for that. All right, I found a spot to sit, and I'm actually up in the area where all the chicken farms are, so you might hear chickens in the background. So I am happy with settling into Coronado as a home base. That, from what I'd read was, had a good expat community, and it seemed like a good place just to kind of be a starting point for me. And I found a storage unit in Gorgona that was perfect just to, store my stuff. Now, what I would not do again, which is what I did, was get into a real estate deal immediately. And I do not recommend this, unless you have the means and you don't need the liquid cash. If you're at a level of wealth where you can buy a couple of properties and, it doesn't matter if you use them or have to sell them, that's a totally different story. But for me, I got into the real estate deal because I needed a place to live, And I really got seduced by the idea of having a condo by the beach that was affordable, something that I would not have been able to do in the US. So, I was here like just in the first few weeks, and it's all exciting, and it's seductive. And then when you meet certain people who are, kind of taking advantage of that naivete. Um, anyway, so I would not recommend getting into a real estate deal unless just have the abundance of cash, and it really doesn't matter if it's a dwelling for you to stay in more than, a couple times a year. So I don't recommend buying right away. I do recommend putting stuff in storage and just finding your way, because my time staying in Coronado at the beach showed me that for me, my body just never adjusted to that heat. And it was exhausting for me, and I just couldn't see myself really being happy in that climate day to day. And so that led me to explore the mountain areas. And then you narrow it down. So each place that you go, and you're going to be able to find rentals easy enough for 3 to 6 months. They're all furnished typically. And you spend 3 to 6 months somewhere, you're going to get a really good idea of whether that place is for you. Your internal guidance system is going to be activated, and then just keep following that internal guidance system. The things that you don't care for, you steer in a different direction. The things that you really like and enjoy and excite you, you keep going, forward in those directions. I would recommend at least coming to do a visit sooner. The sooner the better. There's only so much research you can do about a place. You have to be in an environment to see how you feel in it. A lot of people will post in the Facebook groups, that they are looking for a certain thing and what area. And it's good for general advice, but you've got to have your own experience to see how you feel. And you also have to give yourself time to kind of grow and evolve into who you're going to be in a new country, in a new environment. So I am happy with my choice to start out in one spot. I would not advise getting into, the real estate deal immediately, and then I'll pick up with the next one. So, am I happy with my final decision of where I ended up in El Valle de Anton? Yes, 1,000%, absolutely. I had considered Altos del Maria. The appeal was that it was this, gated community. I figured that would be safe for a, solo female. I loved the the layout of the community, the mountains, the greenery, the flowers, the birds, the rivers. It was just a gorgeous place. However, I don't think it's the best spot to be if you're a bit of an introvert and hermit and getting into your older years. As much as I loved it, and I was, looking at property up there, there was something in my internal guidance system that said, this might not be healthy. Like, this might not be good for your mental health as you get older, like to be that isolated. So after checking out other mountain areas, El Valle really appealed to me because I love that there are activities in town, whether I participate in them or not. I do like that there's like this energy pulse. I love that there are stores and restaurants easily, within walking of my house. I love that I have, some friends there. I do tend to be a bit of a hermit. That is something I'm kind of always working on to be more engaged and get out. But yeah, I'm very happy with that. So that kind of ties in with having the experience of being in different places, and then you will know, you will sense, you will have a feeling of what the right place is for you. I guess the last thing to kind of talk about is, am I happy with purchasing the home that I did and going through the renovation and building the casita? And I will say absolutely, 1,000% yes, even with the ridiculous problems I've had with that roof on the casita. Are there things I would do differently if I did it now? Yes, absolutely. So I'm very happy with the house because it was under $200,000 and it allowed me to create the space how I wanted to. And I guess that was a project that was brewing within me that I didn't even realize how big of a dream that was until I got into it. That creative process was incredible. Absolutely loved every minute. I, worked with someone. I didn't even have a contract with him. I didn't have a contract agreement because I'd built up trust because I was renting a house on his property. So I really had built up, trust. I believed him. I took him at his word. There are things that I probably would have had, the things I know now that maybe I would have asked for, clarification on, but I'm very happy. There are small things, and maybe I'll go into that in a separate video of like what I would do differently if I was doing a renovation now. If you guys want to see a video on that, I can do a walkthrough of my house and the casita and kind of point out like what I would do differently. So yeah, I absolutely great experience. I'm building up that hope and faith in a motto that we're going to tackle this roof issue in the casita and that it's all going to be fine. Fingers crossed. So now that I've been in my house for 2 years and I am 60, I am kind of starting to think about like the next 20 years, right? In 20 years, I'll be 80. Who knows how much time I'm going to be gifted to be on this planet. And I mean, I have been thinking about like my house, like, am I going to want to be here when I'm, older? What if I need medical care? Because I do see people, in El Valle who have medical issues that they're dealing with, and they have family. They have spouses, maybe they have kids. I don't have a spouse. I don't have kids. I'm not going to adopt any kids anytime soon. So I've actually been kind of thinking that maybe when I'm 75, maybe I would sell my house and go move into the city. There are like different levels of, I guess they're calling them like there's a place called Generation Towers that Mike Kelly did a video on, and it will have assisted living available. It looks like the development, I think it's in development now, and it looks like it's going to be beautiful with a lot of pools, and it just kind of struck me like, when I'm 75, I could start taking cruises. Like I'd be right there in Panama City at the airport or a port. There are ships that leave out of Panama. And so I'm thinking maybe I would do that. Would I miss my garden? Absolutely. Would I miss the, temperate climate? Sure. But, you adapt to things in life. And certain things become more important than others, and they outweigh things. And that's how you adjust and adapt. So I might do that. Anybody want to buy my house in 15 years? Let me know. Thanks for watching. See you guys next week. And thanks for subscribing and buying the book if you bought the book and all that stuff. I just really appreciate your support. It means a lot to me. So don't go into analysis paralysis. Make your first trip, and you don't have to cover the whole country in 7 days. I'd advise that you do some kind of a brief tour or do a full bus tour if that's what feels right for you. Definitely meet with an immigration attorney. Start purging your belongings. It's good for the soul. And pay attention to your internal guidance system.